You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
We're out and about here at BRFM on the Monday Night Community Show, and I must say it's nice to be back down on the Sheppey Horticultural Society's allotment plot, and we're joined with Dave, and it's a lovely day here, Dave.
It's an absolutely superb day. It's been awful, as we well know. The number of times that you and I have spoken on a Monday evening, and the rain has been rattling on the top of your studio roof is quite something. So it's delightful to be able to sort of sit and for you to come and join us in sunshine.
Like a real true summer's day.
It is a true summer's day. It's one of the very few that we've actually had. So welcome, and you're very welcome indeed.
Yeah, it's nice to be back, because I think last year I come to your show and didn't come here, so it's about 2 years since I've been here. So it's
Is it that long since you've actually been down here? Yes, fine. But as I say, yes, you came to the show, which we managed to rustle up a few people for you. And so, Roy Sewell had the history of the society, which I think everybody found very useful. So again, it's you're welcome to come and sit outside my shed on the plot. So there you go. Welcome.
Now, I was wondering perhaps if you could tell our listeners a little bit about the Horticulture Society, and also especially the allotment plot here as well.
Well, the Society's been going for about, well over 50 years, long before I ever came here, actually. Been going for over 50 years, and we do have two sites, one here at Richmond Street, which is where you are, and our other site is at Medway Road. Here we have about 90-odd plots, and at Medway Road we have something like the same sort of number, about 80-odd plots. They vary in size, as you can see. You're sitting actually on my plot, which is 10 rods, which is about 80-odd feet by about 30 feet wide. But what we tend to do when somebody gives up a plot, we tend to halve them, because unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your point of view, we have a bit of a waiting list here at Richmond Street. So we tend to split them in half, 5 rods. We find a lot of produce can actually be got from a 5-rod plot. Actually, you'd be surprised just how much you can actually get. So yeah, 2 sites, Medway Road, Richmond Street and Nursery Close. We have about 240-odd members. So we're going hopefully from strength to strength. And as you can see, allotmenteering has been taking off over the last few years, and long may it continue.
Now, weather has been slightly wet, although it's nice today, and everything's looking really, really green.
It's looking over green. I think we were talking before you came on air that it's been over green. As you can see, there is an awful lot of weed around as well, and this year particularly, the weeds have been pretty high and pretty, how can I say, there have been a lot of them, put it that way. So a lot of people have been complaining about the weeds, but then that's the lot of gardeners, unfortunately, and allotment holders, that people will say, oh, the weeds, the weeds, the weeds. It's curious, just before you arrived, we were talking about the number of people who've rented out our lawnmowers this morning, because everybody is cutting their grass like crazy, so it's growing. It's the effects of the recent weather, or the wind, not the wind, the water that we've actually had, and obviously the sunshine is coming out, so everything is burgeoning, everything is growing. As you can see, the asparagus just behind you is much, much higher than you would normally expect to see it. Things are coming back as well. The comfrey, which is also in front of you here, that's the 3rd picking. I've already mown that 3 times this year. You would expect to mow it perhaps twice, but not 3 times, and it's still coming back. So suddenly, plants are using the water, and they are relishing the sunshine.
I was going to say, our rhubarb at home's been doing very well, and it looks like you've got quite a bit there. Have you found the same success?
Yeah, we're still picking it, actually. We still bring it out. I'm sure you're doing exactly the same thing. But we're still freezing it. Normally that would have gone over by now, but as you can see probably from what you're looking around at, it's a little bit later this year than it normally is, and things are starting to come on, and people are starting to pick things. The beans, for instance, lots of beans behind you. In fact, funnily enough, my wife is up there actually picking the beans this morning. Right. If you don't pick beans on a regular basis, then they will stop growing.
Right.
And
so a bit like sweet peas, that sort of thing.
That kind of thing.
Sweet peas stop flowering if you don't pick them.
The more you pick, the more times you pick,
Yeah, that's
the
what I
more
mean,
often you pick, the more sweet peas or the more produce or the more flowers you're actually going to get. So it's exactly the same with beans. I apologise, but somebody's actually mowing around the corner.
I was going to say, we've had a lots of mowers going by, so it certainly shows how green things are. What we do, we'll take a break, and then we'll continue talking to Dave Howell. We are out and about here at the allotment plots. We are out and about here at the Monday Night Community Show on BRFM. We're down at the allotment plots at Richmond Street at the Sheppey Horticultural Society. We're talking to Dave Howell. It's a fantastically summer's day, so I'm really glad to be out and about rather than in the studio, I think, Dave.
Without the Macintoshes on, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there you go. So, yes, the things that you can be getting on with, particularly at this time
Yeah,
of
that'd
the
be
year.
good to cover, yeah.
As I say, as you can see, you can look around you, you'll see the weeds are as high as an elephant's eye, and I mean absolutely no disrespect to elephants where that's concerned. But a lot of mowing, and you probably heard the mower go past there. A lot of people, as I said earlier, are already hiring the mowers because people realise, of course, that the grass is growing exponentially. That's a big word. It's growing high, put it that way. So this time of the year, I think, in fact, what you should be looking at is for a lot of weeding, keeping on top of the weeds, and they are very high and very big this year. They just tend to keep coming back, and they're growing faster and faster and faster. The plants themselves are maturing, so obviously you need to keep feeding them. And I think at this time of the year, obviously, you need to keep a weather eye on what's actually happening. Green fly, black fly, all of those kinds of things are happening at the same time as your plants are actually growing. You've probably experienced this in your own garden. You tend to have to keep a lookout for these little pests coming up.
I was going to say, actually, one of the things I'm also finding at the moment, and I find it always difficult, when the plants have sort of grown and they're coming to an end. We've got an hollyhock at the moment, and it's more or less finished flowering now, and it's took all that time to grow. But I know I've got to cut it back for the new plants to come through, but it seems such a shame, and I sometimes find that's the hardest bit, is keeping the garden under control, cutting things back so the new stuff can get through, but you always never seem to want to because it took ages for that to grow.
This is one of the ruthless things about gardening, because funnily enough, you're talking about that, I was in my own garden yesterday and I took one look at it and I thought, that's got to go, that's got to be cut back, the pruning has got to be done there, simply because it keeps the plant healthier. It gives you a chance to look to see how healthy that plant actually is. But to certainly prune it back at this particular time of the year, you're going to get that second flush. I have oxeye daisies. They grow everywhere in my garden.
Yeah.
Once they've finished, I'm going to cut them back. I will get a second flush, but they must be cut back. So this is all part of, good husbandry, where that's concerned.
We are at the moment talking to Dave Howell. We're out and about. We're down at the allotment plots in Richmond Street, right here at BRFM. So we are out and about here at BRFM on the Monday Night Community Show. We're at the allotment plots in Richmond Street. We're talking to Dave Howell from the Sheppey Horticultural Society on what is a lovely summer's day. So it's nice to be out and about. And as we're by your allotment plot, Dave, I was wondering if we could perhaps do a little walk through, if you could go through, how your fruit and veg and plants are going.
Funnily enough, years and years ago, somebody said to me once, well, what do you grow? And I said, what don't we grow? We tend, like newcomers, everybody's a newcomer.
Yeah.
So you tend to want to put absolutely everything in until you actually tune it to what you know you like and what you know the ground will actually grow for you and grow well. But if you start at one end of the allotment here, we're looking out at what is a very, very nice cobnut tree. I did actually inherit that when I took the plot over.
Right.
So we never need to buy nuts at Christmas time, which is wonderful. And the nuts are absolutely superb. They might be a little late this year simply because of the weather we're actually having.
Right.
Then we start with, we continue rather with soft fruit bushes, gooseberries as well as black currants. Then everybody grows rhubarb.
Yeah.
What you tell me a garden or an allotment that doesn't have rhubarb on it, and everybody walks around come rhubarb picking time and says, would you like some rhubarb? And you point to, well, what do you think that is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Carrots, obviously, brassicas, greens, they are actually superb this year, although they are well netted, so they've kept off the cabbage white butterfly.
Yeah.
inevitably, like rhubarb, everybody will grow potatoes. Everybody grows their favourites. Everybody knows what they like and what they actually want to grow. I've had a very, very good crop of peas, and I'd be careful when you sort of step about 10 yards away from us because the squashes are almost as high as an elephant's eye again this year.
Yeah.
They're very, very big indeed. Although, strangely enough, they're a little bit late this year, so we're hoping that they will be growing on for the show at the end of this month. After that, I've had a very good crop of peas. Again, carefully netted to make sure that neither the birds or anybody else can actually, or anything else can actually pick them. I was quite surprised, actually. I had one pea this year, literally one pea, which had a worm in it. The rest of them were absolutely superb. Lots of frozen vegetables are going into the fridges at home. Onions been very good this year. Very little white rot around, strangely enough, this year, despite the wet conditions that we actually had earlier in the year. You know, very, very pleasing crop of onions indeed. So leeks will also be in there. They went in a couple of months ago. That's a long-term crop.
Yeah.
It's something that you'll pick early next year, something like that. So you can just leave them in the ground, let them grow. So you can see the real disappointment, I suppose, is tomatoes. A lot of people are complaining about blight on the tomatoes. It's just suddenly arrived. You're thinking we're going to get away with it this year, but no, unfortunately, I've had to grub out about 10 plants because of the blight.
Right.
And yet, strangely enough, I know they're far away, one end of the plot to the other, a 10-rod plot, but strangely enough, the potatoes haven't been blighty at all this year. But it swings and roundabouts. Yeah. Last year we had to cut the tops off the potatoes to try to save them from the blight, and the tomatoes were brilliant.
Right.
This year it's the other way round. Quite remarkable. And then again at the top, something I inherited. It's not actually. It's a tayberry.
Right.
We believe it's a tayberry, but it's something I actually inherited. The fruit on that has been superb. We've been making lots and lots and lots of jam and lots of drinks and what have you from the tayberries. Ice cream from tayberry. Tayberry ice cream is actually wonderful. So you can see it's not just growing for the sake of it, it's actually growing to be eaten. In fact, I suppose you could say the family, when they sit around our dinner table and say, what's actually yours? And you say, well, we're not up to sheep and meat and pork at the moment. Everything else on the table. And that's what allotmenteering is all about, this ability to take stuff home immediately and cook it that same day, because it's the freshest thing you could actually come across, actually.
One of the things I'm glad you mentioned, actually, I was going to ask you this, is you mentioned a couple of your things are late, and although things seem to be growing really well, we've noticed our apple tree at home last year. I mean, we were more or less at the stage you could pick the apples now, whereas they're quite small, look like they're nowhere near picking at the moment, so I'm glad you sort of covered that.
I think that has been nationally mentioned, actually, that the apples certainly, the crop nationally is going to be down, and obviously that's reflected in the one or two trees. I don't know how many trees you've actually got.
Just the one. The pear tree. Both of them are sort of slow this year. Very
slow, very late. I have exactly the same problem. I have a Cox again that I inherited. It's a very old Cox, but I take great pride in it to try and keep it going. Last year the fruit was absolutely superb. In fact, I was freezing lots of apples off a Cox's orange pippin. This year I can count them, actually, the number of fingers and thumbs that I've actually got. That's the number of apples I've actually got on the tree. So everything seems to be a bit late. It always seems to be a bit slow, and I think it's because we've discussed this earlier in the year. It's a very, very funny year. Suddenly we're getting the sun, and everything seems to be very quickly trying to catch up, and it's been all vegetables and flowers and what have you. A lot of horticulture has been playing catch up this year. Now you're starting to see it, and of course now you have a glut. What the heck do I do with all of this stuff? So there's an awful lot of freezers, I'm sure, being utilised or bought, extra freezers. In fact, we're probably going to have to buy another freezer a bit later in the year.
Now, one of the things that's fast approaching is your flower and vegetable show. I was wondering if you could let our listeners know when it's on and a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I think this will be our 48th or 49th, I'm not sure. So look forward to the 50th. I think that will be, if it's the 49th, then it's the next year. Hold on a second. Yeah, it is. It's 50th next year, but this is our 49th annual Flower and Vegetable Show. It's being held like we have been using the De Lacy Hall. The Lacy Hall, that's in the Esplanade Gardens in Sheerness. Very easily identified because the swimming pool is at the other end of the car park, as you know. And that's on Saturday, the 25th of August, 3 o'clock till 6 o'clock. and on Sunday the 26th of August 11am till 4pm. And so we love to see people. Gardeners are inveterate talkers, obviously. Lots of people come in asking for advice, and there are a lot of friendly people there, as you know when you came last year. Lots of people, and there's a great buzz about the place with people talking horticulture, and so we look forward to seeing lots and lots of people coming through the doors. So that's Saturday the 25th of August, Sunday the 26th of August, and it's obviously a two-day show. That goes without saying. And it's our 49th. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember whether it was the 48th or 49th this year. It kind of catches up with you every so often. Refreshments are available, and there are an awful lot of friendly people there. As you can see, I'm holding a copy of the show schedule. You looked through it. I think you actually quickly looked through it.
Yeah, I had a quick look,
There are 100 classes. It's not just vegetables, but there's also flowers, dahlias, chrysanthemums, and a lot of handicraft as well. Gardeners are also handicrafters as much as anybody else.
Dave, as always, it's been great to speak to you. Thank you for once again allowing us to experience your allotment plot as well. And I think I'm now going to go on to talk to some of the other plot holders.
I hope so, yes. I hope they're as forthcoming as we always try to be. Can I just mention one other thing before I go? Obviously, anybody interested in taking up a plot, if they would like to contact Sue Underhill, who's our show secretary, and Sue Underhill is available on 01795, of course, 661 547. Welcome to take your call. We'd love to see you, and as I say, we want... I hesitate to say it this way because some people might say a waiting list is a bad thing. You could look at it two ways. A waiting list is also a good thing because it means that the society is actually turning over and there are people interested in waiting who want a plot. We had a couple of people come in this morning just before you arrived asking, can I put my name down for a plot? So hopefully it goes from strength to strength, and it's lovely to see you here, and the sun is still shining, Daniel.
Dave, once again, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure.